Hi everybody, so we're going to be working on a gradation layered haircut that will blend into our existing planar haircut that we have done on our mannequin. So we're going to part off from the center of the ear, coming around right to the occipital bone. So you can see it's only a few inches above. Typically, I wouldn't part off the hair this way, but I'm doing it so that you can have a visual representation as to where to stop when you're doing your arc with your clipper. We're going to use our longest attachment, so the number 8 today. And so we're going to create a nice gradation, and really a gradation is just a shorter version of graduation. It's too short for us to actually hold with our fingers. And then we're gonna blend out the top portion, and we'll clean up around the ears and make it more of a business cut for today. So first off, in working with your clippers should be off. The blade should be closed, so all the way down, so the lever all the way up. And then we're going to snap on our guide. And how we do that is insert the top and then simply press it down. And then that little hook on the back is what allows us to release it off. So again, we're putting it in and then snapping it down. And it should be all lined up. We know that this is going to be 1 inch in length because the number 8 is 1 inch. And then we're going to be working with our arcing motion. And a lot of times people call this a scoop or a C shape. The most important part is that we want to be starting our arc on the nape, not right in the hairline. You want to be starting it right on the neck or below the hairline in order to start, especially right now, we're going to be doing a very fast C shaping because we want that to be out. The biggest mistake that you can make for this particular haircut, this is not an undercut. So we're not going to make everything flat to the head. We don't want to just follow up to the curve of the head. We want to be going in and coming out right away in order to create a graduated form. So we're going to have this type of angle in or our line of inclination in our haircut. So turning on the clipper, starting, I'm going to start from the nape, but you can see the position that I go in. If you look at your clipper guide, it's going to be flat on the skin, and then as I go in, I'm going to curve out. So again, go in and then curve out. I did wet down my mannequin before I started this haircut. Ideally with these type of clippers, you don't want to be working with wet hair, but I did wet it because I'm going to be blending in this rest of this haircut as I work. And I want that hair just out of the way. I always have my comb in hand in order to redistribute that hair down. And you will find, even when you're working with the clipper guides, that you'll have to go back over the section a number of times. And notice that C shaping. So I'm doing this pivot with my wrist. It's a good idea to even practice this pivot before you begin this haircut today. So it's just very quick, in and out. This helps to give me a visual representation because I have the section sectioned off with my clips. Other ways that I've done it in keeping it down, I would encourage you to do it this way, is I've had the hair and then I have my comb there, and it sort of gives me a visual representation as to where to stop this gradation. Now this is a low gradation, so what that means is the hair is still covering the scalp. I still have movement. I could technically get in and hold that hair. Anywhere between a number 8 and possibly to a number 4 is probably a low gradation. A lot of that is going to be dependent on the color of hair. So white or blonde hair will become more transparent faster than darker hair typically. I'll just finish up here. And now I'm going to switch to my trimmers to actually clean up and finish, because you can see that that's still fairly long there, and I want to have a nice clean line for my client. So turning on my clippers, I'm going to establish my line. So I need to understand where the actual hairline is, and I'm going to go just below that in order for us to be able to try this a few times as we go through our haircuts. So it's 1 inch below, and I just want to create a nice line. Whenever I'm creating a line, I actually don't use my clippers this way. This would be only for cleaning up superfluous hair. I'm going to actually turn my edger around and go in and just use that as a square line. To clean up. Now I could easily have done this with my scissors as well, but it's nice to use different tools. Different stylists will tell you that some will have the client look straight up as they do this. Other stylists will have the client tip their head down. If you're trying to get a real strong straight line, keep the client's head position up. If you don't mind it being a little bit curved out, then you can tip the client's head down. I'm going to go back in through the sides with my scissors later. So now just moving into the rest of the haircut of how I'm going to actually blend this in. I'm going to pull down and release these sections now. So the idea is, I'm trying to create this haircut is, one clip, is I want to maintain this length. This length is getting to be a good length. He doesn't mind it. Maybe I've already cut it, for example, and now I'm just trying to create that business cut. Now what will happen is I will take vertical sections as we've been doing all through this term. And then starting from the bottom, I'm going to switch combs to my cutting comb. Using this bottom as my guide. Where our fingers have been totally vertical, because I'm trying to maintain length, I'm going to put them on a slight angle, because the idea is to blend this longer piece to this shorter piece that I've already established. So you can see what's going to happen from A to B, if you will. From this short piece to this long piece just below the crown, I'm going to have an angle that's going to be somewhat like this. So this will be my finger position for up here in order to blend that. So I'm just going to go in. And I can use my scissors, I can use my razor to do this. I can be notch cutting or just doing straight cutting as I'm doing right now. But you can see here is my guide. And that's where I'm going to be ending with that. I'm using palm to palm positioning. So I'm always having a neutral wrist as I work my way through. Once that guide has been established, that can be my traveling guide, and I can use that through the rest of my sectioning. Now with a low gradation, as we've discussed in the PowerPoint, I'm going to have a buildup of weight. I can control that with later texturizing or point cutting now. That would also help. I want to make sure that I can always see my guide. So as I work my way out here. Again, I'm blending in with my top. If I was going to be taking my top any shorter, then I would have started with my traditional planer up and through the top, established that length in through the top, but because I was keeping the length so that we can do multiple haircuts on this mannequin, I wanted to keep that top a little bit for a period of time so we can get 1 or 2 more haircuts from it. And we've done that same procedure where we've sectioned off the horseshoe section, cut the top all parallel to the floor. Now I'm just keeping that. So I'm working my way around the head. Now I have a mobile guide, so I don't always have to start from that bottom and have that whole section up and in my hand. And I'll just go to the one side. And because we have done the modern mullet to the sides, which we brought to about 1 inch in length. They will blend in very nicely with the bottom portion that we've cut already. So you see I'm starting to run out of hair on the sides. I have very little to cut, and it's more from those top pieces than anything, because the sides themselves, as you can see, I don't have a lot of hair because we did that modern mullet. So it's blending in quite nicely to give me that businessman's haircut. Now what I want to do in through the sides here, I'm just going to get some of this hair out of my way, is I want to clean it up in and around the ears. And what that means is I need to get rid of the hair behind the ear here so that it's going to be nice and clean. And I want to go around the ear. Now in the mannequin, it can be a little bit more challenging because the ear doesn't move, or on a person I can physically move the ear out of my way. I'm getting hair's getting a little dry. But what I want to do is always have the hair in natural fall. So I don't want to be holding the hair necessarily when I'm cutting over the ear. I want to allow it to fall so I can see how that's going to jump up, what's going to happen. On a man, I'm going to make that sideburn area more square, as opposed to where a woman, I make it more pointy. And then I might go section by section if the hair is quite thick, as it is in this one. I'm just going to clip that off so that I can see to go in and around the ear. And you can see how I just do small cuts, and what's actually happening is every movement that I make, I'm actually raising my wrist just a little bit so I can get that natural curve. You don't want to ever do this in one foul swoop, because your blades are straight. So then therefore you will get a real straight line going across. I always anchor myself on the ear. Typically I would be holding that ear out of my way. And then, as I mentioned, I'm going to bring this hair now forward. You want to be careful when you do this, because you don't want to have any tension. So you want to use the wider teeth of your comb as you do this. If you hold it with too much tension and you cut, the hair will bounce back, and that's where you'll have a big gaping hole. So now I'm going up from the back towards that part of the ear. And up and around. I'm going to release the rest of that section. Now you can see when I've done that, because the hair was left fairly long in and around the ear, that it's fairly heavy in through that. So that's where now we have some options that we could go in with scissor over comb method and bring that close. I can also choose to go in with my thinning shears. Now my thinning shears look a little bit different than yours. They have a razor tip. It's just some options are just different. It's the ones that I have at home. But I could go in and soften that also with my thinning shears so that it's not standing out so much. And it just creates a nice softness and allowing him to still have that length on the sides. Again, and through here, I notice I have that weight. So I can go in and just soften that. When you're doing this method, you can't move it in unison. With the thinning shear, you have to remember that it's only cutting part of the hair. So I have to move, cut, stop. I'm not continuing to move as I go and work my way through. Another alternative method that we've done in class, and it's quite effective, is to do the razor rotation technique. And that's really nice in getting that softness and removing weight and getting it to lay quite nicely. So I'm going to pause for now. I'm going to finish the haircut, then I'll style it, and I'll show you what the end result looks like. Okay, so here's the finished blow-dried result. It's one style option. It's not all of the style options. Again, what I did was I kept that length in the front, so there still is disconnect from when we did our modern mullet. And that length just allows me to have a little bit more freedom in how I want to style it. He could definitely have, you know, the messy look. It doesn't have to be, all depending on face shape, it doesn't have to be as structured as what I have it right now. If you decide to do this haircut and submit it to us, what we will be looking at is we will want a picture of just the line of inclination to show your blending and showing any holes. We also want you to do a cross section. So this cut was cut vertically all around. So you'll take a cross section in the back and take a picture of it here to show the evenness of your cut. In this case, we only went around here. If this was uneven, I would encourage you to clean it up, but don't take it very, very short. Again, this cut was all done like this in through the top using vertical partings. So therefore your cross sectioning would be like this to show, and oh, look, see, I have some parts where I've texturized. And this would not cause you a deduction of grades, that would in that case. So there's a good example. But in the area where I texturized a lot, I want to see if I can find it, where you have a lot of sort of finer points, that would not be deducted of grades. Again, on the sides, we cut vertically, so then therefore you would show a cross section holding the hair out. That's from the top, holding the hair out this way so we could check for evenness of the cut. That is outlined in the optional bonus assignment if you choose to do it. I encourage you to do it. It's fairly simple haircut. You know this part very, very well. So this is just new with that scooping out, coming out.